Hey everyone, my name is Dan Roth. Over 4 months ago, I approached Michelle Griffin with an idea to create a LinkedIn Live series talking about women's empowerment and the reduction of gender and racial bias from the workforce and social media. To this point, I've been slow to take ownership of the idea because I didn't want anybody to think that I was doing this about me. What I've come to realize is that in some way it has to be about me, or at least people that look like me. We're the ones that have put the glue on the floor. We're the ones that have been creating those ceilings. We're the ones that have hid behind a wall of ego and ignorance for way too long. It is up to us to initiate the change because it's us that are the perpetrator and we owe it to our victims. Last month, in our inaugural session, over 340 of you signed up to watch as Pat Roquet, Kate Bezesnik, Sid Meadows, myself, and Michelle Griffin did an amazing job at getting to the root of some difficult questions. Today, I'm excited to take a step back as a new amazing panel takes center stage to bring a fresh perspective to a conversation that needs to turn into action and action into law. Welcome to the Women's Empowerment Series.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's second edition of the Women's Empowerment Series. I am so glad you're here. I'm honored you're here. We had almost 500 people sign up and probably even more watching that haven't signed up. But I'm your host, Michelle Griffin. And along with Dan Roth and I, we thought of this idea back in January. And we're here today to bring you the second edition. So I want to introduce our guest in just a second. A little bit about me. I'm Michelle Griffin. I'm a personal brand strategist and the founder of Brand Authority, which is a personal branding and thought leadership consultancy. I'm so honored here to moderate and let you know more about this amazing panel. So today I'm going to introduce, in no particular order, but ladies first, we have an amazing panel. Here we are today. First, I'm going to welcome Madison Mobley. Madison is the head of belonging, inclusion, and culture at Fair Market, which is excuse me, my notes went up, excuse me one second, my notes just completely went off track here. It's a procurement tech startup on the heels of its Series B funding. She has a background in sales, customer success, and HR strategy. Welcome, Madison.
Hi.
Hey, Madison, how are you today? It's good to have you here.
I'm great. I'm fresh out of the hair chair, feeling fantastic. So thank you all for having me.
You look amazing. We're so happy to have you here. So hang tight. I'm going to welcome just a few more people and we're going to get going. So we have a great topic for everyone today. So next, I'm going to introduce you all to Judy Fox. Judy is a LinkedIn business accelerator where she specializes in video and content strategy and is a speaker, also known in LinkedIn as #FoxRocks, where she helps people with their LinkedIn business coaching, sales and video, podcasting. She's big on H2H marketing. And as she says in her profile, very approachable and hilarious. Judy, we are so happy to have you here. Welcome to today's show.
Excited to be here. I am a couple days out from the hair chair. So.
Well, you look great too. And I know you had a little guest, but we may or may not see
your
sidekick. So thanks for sharing that in the back. All right, next we have Stephanie Steve. Stephanie, we are so excited to have you here. She is a relentless champion for diversity and STEM. She is a master marketer in agriculture and breaking the glass ceiling in a male-dominated industry. She is an inclusive, innovative health industry leader who relentlessly champions sustainable practices and upward mobility for women and underrepresented minorities to advance equity. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Welcome.
Thanks, everyone. So happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. We have a wonderful women's panel today, but we have three more men to be introduced. So we're excited to have their voices in to discuss this important topic today. So Felipe Cofino is the VP of HR and Organizational Development at Signal Financial FCU. He's been an HR training executive for 25 plus years. He's a skilled recruiter, career coach, trainer, and compensation analyst with a background in hospitality and financial and banking. So welcome, Felipe, to this panel. And we're so excited to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm very excited to be here and among all these wonderful people here as well. So can't wait for it to get started.
Yeah, we're really excited to hear your insights. I know you have some personal stories to share, so we'll get to that in just a minute. Next, we have Bobby Umar, which we want to give a shout out today to have thank Bobby for letting us house this under the Thought Leadership Branding Club, which is a club that Bobby started or founded on Clubhouse back in January, which has now over 12,000 members. He is a storytelling and personal branding and meaningful relationship expert dealing with confidence, communication, and content. He's a TEDx speaker, trainer, an actual 5 times TEDx speaker, and has been featured in Inc. magazine and a top 100 leadership speaker. So Bobby, thank you so much for sharing your time and your space here today. We really appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here and to support and empower.
Thank you, Bobby. And Dan, I'm going to introduce you because I don't think you actually did that. And, I know you like to hide behind the scenes, but this entire idea came from you. You approached me and we decided to take this out to LinkedIn. So for those who do not know Dan Roth, he is a corporate recruiter, talent acquisition specialist, networking and branding advisor, and relentless DEI advocate. So Dan, thank you so much. I know you're behind the scenes today, but we couldn't do this without you. So thank you for your hard work.
Hey, everyone. I was just getting myself comfortable getting behind the scenes, starting to answer questions. So I will say hello now. Thank you for the introduction. But this is about you amazing panel today, and I appreciate all of you for being here. I'll see you guys towards the end.
And we lost Michelle. I think.
All right.
Yeah, we can take the lead. I was.
Sorry, everyone.
Oh, that's okay.
So I don't precisely know where Michelle went. But we will wait for her to get back. And, these things happen. It's a live conversation. Let me bring her on. She's back. There we go. See, the second I start talking, Michelle thinks she has to run. I don't know why. So we are back with our fearless leader, Michelle. I am going back to answer your questions. And again, I'll be back at the end to introduce everyone to next month's panel in just a little bit. Good luck, everyone. And I'll be talking to you in the chat.
Thank you, Dan. All right. We are here, all of us. And today's important topic, of course, is about women's empowerment, but more specifically, we are going to talk about pay disparity among races and gender in the workforce, especially the influx of women who are being forced to leave the workplace because of the work mandate that's coming back. And as Judy Fox definitely, she in our private message, she really thinks and agrees, and this is maybe where we're going to start, how stretched thin many women are right now during the pandemic. There's been less attention and time to share their voices or talk about these important subjects. And that's why today exists, this moment with these amazing guests and this important topic, because we want to start this conversation for change. The only way to do that is to be present, to bring those who matter and all want change together. So with that being said, I'd like to start the conversation with the way things are right now. What are your take on it and what do we need to do? What are you guys seeing is the first place to start with this talk and this change? Where are you seeing? I know some of you are dealing with this more than others. Who wants to go first? I think I'm going to call on Stephanie. Do you mind me pulling you out first to see what your thoughts are?
Sure, Michelle. So my personal situation is that I'm an expat. I'm a proud mom of 3 kids, and the eldest is turning 6. So it's a busy household. I do have a great support system at home, but being an expat means that I do not have extended family resources. So the time pressure, the commitment, and generally the assumption is that mom is there to care for everything. I overheard several times, and through no fault of anyone, on virtual school that, oh, can your mom get this for you? Can your mom? So the assumption is it's a mom that is providing all of this unpaid labor. And really, when we look at the data, I've read through Deloitte and McKinsey data, and women are just, their emotional well-being is truly suffering right now. So I think that is a critical issue that we need to deal with immediately.
So are you working remote right now? You said, and dealing with homeschool. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm working full-time remotely, homeschooling, and trying to find childcare, because in a lot of cases that went up in smoke with COVID as well.
Exactly. And what has it been? 14 months since we all locked down? Has it been 14, 15 months? So things are opening up some places, not everywhere. So we may be faced with this for a while longer. So this is an important conversation. Madison, I want to turn it to you. What are you seeing in your role, in your situation, where you are? How is this impacting you right now?
So I'm seeing a few things. I mean, I can start with the obvious, being someone who's a woman, but someone who also identifies as Black, also a woman who identifies as queer. I see both a women's rights issue, but also an issue as it pertains to the future of the family. On the one hand, I think the reason why we're here to talk about this is, at the most basic level, things like sexism and racism absolutely still exist. You've got that now with what's already been stated, the convergence of work and personal in a way that we've never had to manage before. And what I've seen internally where I work, but also in speaking to colleagues, is how do we better create infrastructures internally that allow women to better manage all of the different hats that we have to juggle. And we call it internally as, creating opportunities for others to cover for one another, as an example, to where we're managing burnout much more effectively than we've had to in the past. I think this is also a burnout conversation, to answer your question most directly as to what I'm seeing.
No, that's true. And I don't care what your life stage is. We all have it, it's affecting us all. So thank you for that. And one thing I didn't ask, I'm going to come back in a minute though, and ask your personal stories. That's going to be something. So hold those stories we discussed about why you're here. And I know Felipe has one in particular. So thank you for sharing that, Madison. Much appreciated. Now, Judy, your situation, what are you seeing in your role and what you're facing with your friends, your colleagues, coworkers? What are you seeing as your empowerment issue right now for women and equality and empowerment?
Oh, one thing I feel like I need to say is, with what Stephanie just shared in Madison, I feel like I need to create notes, because my brain was like, oh, I need to mention that. And I need to mention that. I need to mention that. Okay. So I assume everyone's going to have that happen on this panel today.
Yes.
Deep breath, because this subject is so important. I want to put a pin in the topic of burnout, because I feel like the topic of burnout puts the shame of burnout on the person experiencing it, instead of potentially where it needs to be on the systems and the corporations that are kind of allowing it to continue. And it's making it sound like I created burnout for myself because I didn't make all the right choices, or I didn't set myself up with all the support system that I was supposed to have in place by free family, local family, everything that Stephanie just said about assumptions that people make. I don't even know. Like, am I even making a point right now? I have no idea. Other than
a point.
Other than the fact that, if I could change one thing, take the pressure off feeling like, if I bring up burnout, what you just said, Michelle, it's 14, 15 months of this. And you may see a video or some statement from somebody that's only 60 seconds of them expressing what has happened over the past 15, 14 months. So that's really hard to express in even a 1 hour show, 1 hour to talk about 14 months. So let's all acknowledge that. And then, my situation is I'm single parenting. So the assumptions of virtual school has been there's a dual parent household immediately. I feel that almost every single day, and it brings me to almost tears every day. And then the other thing is running your own business. There's assumptions that have been pushed prior to the pandemic of the hustle culture. So that was already maybe potentially not sustainable, and that you have to get back to everybody, you have to do all the things, and you have to do this. And I've started coming to the conclusion that I owe as much and I need as much grace, and everyone else that I'm serving needs grace. And if we're exchanging money, time, energy, resources, that's where it is. And if people are just asking for everything to be free right now, we have to have these boundaries, and boundaries is a whole nother topic. Okay, so hopefully that helped, but I'm opening up 30,000 cans of worms, I feel like, with that opening. But
you made such a powerful statement. The fact that, you are very emotional about this, that speaks volumes. Like you said, you only get a snippet online or talking to people if we do get to talk to people in our busy lives. So that's the whole point of this series. And we can have these discussions every month until we don't need to ever have a discussion about this. Hopefully that's our goal, that we can, nothing will be to talk about because it'll all be fixed. So this is important. This is the first step. So thank you for sharing that passionate answer, Judy. Much appreciated. So I wrote down, just as you said, burnout and boundaries. We're going to come back to those for sure, because there's so much to unpack there, as you said. So let me talk to Felipe. I know you mentioned, yourself, you had a personal story, but tell us why this is so important to you, and what are you seeing with the loved ones, men and women, how they react and reflect on these issues?
For me, I've seen it from a personal standpoint, but also from a professional standpoint, seeing how it's affected our employees at work. And it's been such a struggle because, like, I think it was somebody said earlier, maybe it was Michelle, you said earlier about people being stretched so thin. It's everything from the expectation that they manage their household, manage children, also elderly parents. That's a whole other aspect that we're not thinking about. And then why aren't the men helping out more, or why is the perception that the men can't help out more in that realm? I mean, I remember when I took parental leave for the first time, I was looked at like I had three heads. And for me, that to me was like, why wouldn't I? I'm the parent of that child as well. And I think men need to step up and play a bigger part in that role at home, whether it's for the children. I mean, my children are grown up as far as, they're in college right now. So I'm not even dealing with the homeschooling. I can't even imagine if my wife and I had to deal with that. My wife is a superwoman. She does the work at a school system. She helps out our children throughout their entire school years that they've had. And at one point she had two jobs on top of it. And I just felt like I was not contributing enough. And to see something like that, and then my mother, she's an 89-year-old woman who just moved into our home, still sharp as this whip. The woman has got her iPad, her Apple Watch, and her iPhone, and she's burning them out because she uses them too much. So God bless her for being so sharp. But I watched her in her career get treated, because she was a female and an immigrant. She got treated differently. Her pay got cut differently. When it was time for her retirement, they didn't get the same offers for her as they did to the men that were retiring. So I'm very passionate about that. I'm going to stop there because I could keep on going, but I have a lot of strong feelings about it. And then at work, I have, my heart goes out to the employees that have their home situation. Everyone's different. Everyone has different struggles. And how can we best help? Because as an employer, we have an obligation to help people. This is not something that's ever happened in the history. So.
Exactly. No, thank you for sharing that. Is your work remote right now, or hybrid, or what?
We're in hybrid. So we went to hybrid about last July to 1 to 2 days a week only, and we've stayed it that way. So the other 3 days are remote for Summit 4.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because a hybrid is probably almost as stressful. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but this whole back to work thing. So Bobby, thank you so much for joining us and lending your expertise and insights today. I know you have a lot to say about this. What is your first take on these subject matters and ideas and insights we're speaking about today?
Well, the burnout thing really resonates a lot with me. I'll be honest; it's been a bad week. Yesterday, my daughter, she's 10. She's at home online, and she, for the first time ever, said she hates daddy, and And I kind of freaked out because, sorry, you work so hard to be the best dad you can be. And, you know, and I know she's suffering. I know she's troubled because she missed her friends and it's online. And yeah, but I got triggered and I got really upset by it because I'm looking at myself as a parent. Am I doing a good job? I'm doing the best I can. And, you know, 2 days ago, my partner, my wife, she also got burnt out. She started crying. And, you know, what can I do as support to be there for her, to be an ally to her and my daughter? And yeah, so 2 days ago, my wife had a meltdown. Yesterday, my daughter had a meltdown, and now I'm having one live on LinkedIn. And I can tell you it's hard because there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then I feel for my mom. My mom, you know, my mom also is like me and like my daughter, super social extroverts. And she's struggling, you know, and she, you know, I call her and I try to call her, you know, I don't call as much, but I try to call her and try to make her feel better. But, you know, she got her second dose, her vaccine a couple of days ago. So I told her, I said, you know what, this is it. A year and 3 months, I'm going in for the hug. That's it. I got my vaccine. I'm going to, in 2 weeks when she's ready, we're going to do it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I think this stuff really, you know, resonates a lot with all of us. But I go back to the main thing, which is, you know, the daughter one was really hard because like what, and I took a break, and my wife, God bless, she stepped up, she started doing stuff, and you know, she gave me some support, and so she's supporting now. I've been kind of taking a break from engaging my daughter, and so I'm trying really hard to like just be supportive, to be empathetic, yeah, and leverage your skills. We all have skills. We're all good at different things. We're maybe good at being curious, or we're really good at being empathetic, really good at, you know, just listening and being there. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to focus my energy to help the people in my life. So the burnout thing really resonated with me for all those reasons. And so I want to be here because I want to support this cause. I want to support this discussion. I want people to know that everyone is going through this. But at the same time, we're all going through this, but it's also, it's hard, right? And so my heart goes out to everybody going through this because it's a lot. So.
Thank you for sharing that, Bobby. I know that just can't be easy, but we appreciate I don't know if you're seeing the comments, but people are sending you lots of virtual hugs and love. And I know Judy just did that. So you have so much support and love and compassion. And we all have our own stories, but we're all facing, it sounds like collectively, with our own stories and lives, everyone across the board, burnout, boundaries, you know. So this is so important. It's a little heavy today, but, you know, being here together to take it and talk it out is why we're here, you know. And so thank you for your support. Thank you for your insights, Bobby. That means a lot to people here, really resonating with all of you. Yeah, so let's talk about this. Let's break it down and talk about why are women suffering. We know why women are suffering because we're taking too much, but it's been 15 months. When is this going to end? What does it take? What are some of the ideas and suggestions? Let's bring it up on the table. What needs to happen to make change? Madison, can I go back to you?
Sure. Let's start it up. As far as what I think could be helpful within the context of the workplace, a few things come to mind. Some low-hanging fruit is, and this is advice I would give to those in leadership, for example, but checking on employees regularly. I mean, what a concept. But to me, that's something that we all could do better. And in the spirit of making no assumptions about the things that we're all uniquely dealing with at home. Another thing that comes up, and I briefly touched on this earlier, but this notion of sharing responsibility and increasing transparency across an organization to say, when I'm having a day, I trust that I can go somewhere to say, hey, can you help lighten the load? These are the things that may or may not be on my plate. Another thing that I've just got to use this space to say, I think when the pandemic first started, I was like, this is an introvert's dream because I can sit at home, I can log in, I can log out. I've got some air between meetings. Not so much. We'll book one another 30-minute block to 30-minute block, because now we know no one's really commuting in the way that we once did. But now looking back to pre-pandemic, that was the time that I used to cool off or warm up in between interactions. And there's kind of this flow chart, like this mental health flow chart that's circulating around social right now that talks about like the deterioration of our brain health as we do back to back to back to back meetings. And that also spills over into the rest of our days and how we manage time and one another. And then the last thing I'll say, and I'll pass it to anyone else with ideas here, but there's got to be a crisp conversation internally about the external support resources that are available as we begin to kind of redefine and reimagine what family is and the different flavors of family that all of us may or may not have. And so what does that external mental health and wellness support look like? Because for me, that's been paramount above anything else when I think about how 2020 went for all of us, women, people of color, men, all of the above, and staying as strong as I can possibly be during what's been a very, very challenging time. So I'll pause there.
No, thank you for that. These are great. Oh, I forgot to ask you, is your work remote, hybrid, or what is your situation?
It's hybrid. So Fairmarket's based in Boston. I chose 2 months ago to slide my hind parts down to Dallas, Texas, because that's where I'm from. And that's what makes my spirit feel good right now.
Oh, great.
So I'm phoned in from Dallas. So we're doing some folks in Boston going into an office space, and the rest of us are living our best life remote.
Well, it sounds like, and will you be able to continue that? Or are you being asked to work in an office in Dallas?
I will be able to continue. And I'll skirt up to Boston from time to time, preferably not at all in the winter, but the flexibility is nice. I think, what a shocker. We learned that we can work from anywhere, particularly if you're in an industry like software sales, for example. Everyone can't do it, but giving space for those who can helps. It helps.
Yeah, we're not across the board. So I would like to see more companies address the individual case basis. And if, another thing that irks me is when people who don't have kids get slammed. I think I just read an article or post about this yesterday. They get slammed with all the duties because they don't have children. And that's not fair. Like across the board, we all have important lives, personally and professionally. And we need to be honored and accepted for that. So thank you for sharing that, Madison. Those are great ideas, great insights. I'd love to, I guess we'll just go in order. Do you care, Judy, that we're going to go in this order and ask that? Because that's how you are in my screen, and it just works out well.
Yeah, I'm fine. Flexible, right? That's all.
Yes.
That's the key word, flexible.
Flexible, yes.
So wait, what are we talking about now? Because we covered a lot of ground.
I know there's so much my brain's taking notes and it's going through. We're talking about the burnout and the boundaries. Where should we start? What ideas do you have in your situation, what you're seeing with your people? Where should we start? Where's a good place to start this conversation and move it forward? Like, where do you see happening the need?
Oh, goodness. I feel like I was listening to Madison so intently, and I was like glued on the fact that she had solutions. And I was like, how does she have solutions? I must be in burnout stage where is there like grief, the stages of
probably,
what is it? Grief?
Yeah.
I think I'm a little bit near anger.
Okay.
If that's, I mean, I know that's like a really tough emotion to talk about on social media because I feel like that doesn't always translate well. Like you want to have optimism and positive, but I was very, how do I say this? You get that straw that breaks the camel's back. Mm-hmm. And it's never about the thing that finally makes you angry about something. And I think I'm probably, oh gosh, I don't want to say the word anger like 30,000 times, but I mean, this is something that's been building. And how do I say that? I feel like the pandemic can end, but I feel like the systemic issues that we have that have been built into laws, compliance, the way we treat, even just, oh, you have a gap on your resume. That was not for women. That was not for men either. That doesn't work in today's society at all for anybody. But we have these old-fashioned, I don't know what to call it, systemic issues. And it's not even the word old-fashioned. It's really, some of them are completely inappropriate, outdated. I don't know, stronger words are out there, but we should be angry that they're still there and that we can't, I don't know how to fix them. So Madison was way more optimistic over here. Maybe Stephanie can be more optimistic.
Yeah. No,
I
maybe
have to speak some optimism into me.
Well, it's perfect.
I have some stuff to say. I definitely have some stuff I could say. I wanted to start on a high note. I wanted to start on a high note.
Well, I think
like
Madison
on the roller coaster.
Madison, would you attribute moving to be like among family as something that helped you? Like, were you feeling different in Boston and Dallas changed that for you?
Yes, being closer to family helped, but I do want to double click on the anger that Judy brings up, because here's why burnout is so challenging for all of us, yes, but particularly for women, and then particularly women of color. When you think about, and today is not history class by Madison Mobley. This is not the TED Talk for that. However, when you think about the wealth gap and how it started, right? It started with things like slavery, for example. When I think about my community, right, and we can expand this, things like segregation, things like redlining, right? So you have things that happened years and years and years ago, we weren't even thought of. But the output is, I think the last stat I read is the median white household had 13 times the wealth of the median Black Latinx household, for example. So when you have someone like me, I had to move back closer to family, because there are days when, on the one hand, I have to go, because I do want to be settled down one day with the love of my life, presumably. I do want to have children. I do want to have a family. But some of us are out here fighting for generational wealth when we're so far behind. So when I'm tired, I ain't got time to sleep. Sleep for what? Because there's stuff that I have to do. And I think that feeling, whether you're Black, Latinx, white, male, female, we all can understand that feeling of being behind. Wherever we think we're meant to be in life at this particular stage, that feeling, I do think, is ground that we could call shared. And so that's, for me, where the feelings of anger and resentment start to bubble up, where it's like, I have to go home. I have to slow it down. I have to reset. A lot of us feel like we're making up for lost time. And it's not necessarily specific to a person, but I think it's weightier some days for some of us over others, and vice versa.
And maybe that's where I just say, I know we're not all going through the same thing. And how do I say that without saying we're all in this together and we're not? I don't even know what to do with that some days, because sometimes I do get more anger, and I say, if I hear one more person say we're in this together, when we're literally all feeling and we're in our own bubbles, we are all having different challenges. We all have different family dynamics, different history, different experiences. And yes, I know the bubble I'm in, and I know what I'm experiencing. And I think my voice is valid of what single mom, the challenges we faced as women. Even, how do I say this? I was born in the 70s. So my mother did not experience being able to open up her own checking account, being able to open up her own credit card, to literally think that the generational wealth that Madison just mentioned, and I'm not even trying to get close to what, how do I say this? I know that I have privilege in different areas of different levels, and I don't even know how to talk about that, other than I just know if I just put the women's chunk right here, where I just acknowledge, and I'm grateful for my dad opening up a checking account with me and telling me, you should have your own money, you should have your own accounts, and you should keep them when you're married. I know that sounds edgy right now, but going through a divorce, that can set women back. And then on top of that, this pandemic exposed the gaps wider and wider and wider for what family dynamics are out there, and how families are just adrift, no matter what your family situation is. I feel like we're just adrift. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm going to pass it to Stephanie or Madison or Michelle. Somebody take the mic from me.
No,
here.
no, I mean, your voice matters, and your story matters, and I love it. I mean, it's all valid. I mean, I love, not that you're suffering, but I love to hear that we're bringing this up, because this needs to be out there, and that's why we're doing this. So you're saying, everything you're saying is definitely perfect. So thank you, Judy. Stephanie, tell us now what your thoughts are, and where can we start to address change, and some of the topics both Madison and Judy have talked about as well.
Well, first of all, I do want to, and Judy knows this, but my mom was a single mom. So all of the love and honor to single parents in the world that have to do both jobs of mom and dad. It is extremely challenging. So I grew up watching my mom, to Madison's point, hustle for every last dollar to be able to give us a better life. And I feel as though that really directed my internal hustle culture, if you will. So I originally from Canada, and I welcomed my first child in 2015. And in Canada at the time, and it's gotten even better, but at the time we had 12 months of maternity leave.
Wow.
I know it's a shock, so let that settle in. It's paid at a fairly, living wage. You do have 9 months generally to prepare for that baby coming. So in the US, this is a massive culture shock. I was called 4 months after my son was born, and I was given a timely, unique, crazy opportunity. And I took my son. It's one of these days you'll never forget. I took my son, I put him in the stroller, and I went to lunch with a trusted friend. And I said to her, this opportunity just came up, but I'm on maternity leave and all of these things. And she looked at me, and I'll shout out Jen Freza, she knows. She looked at me and she said, you have to do it. You have to do it, because you don't know when this opportunity will come back. It may never come back again. And saying yes to that one opportunity catapulted my network, my experience, even my travel. I was able to travel pre-pandemic for work and just immerse myself in different cultures and ways of, selling and marketing and living. What that meant was, first of all of the moms in Canada in my organization, but you're on maternity leave. Why would you? Your son's 4 months old. Why would you go back to work? Well, the time is now or never, potentially. So my husband stayed home for a year with our son as we settled into, just getting our lives set up in a new country was quite overwhelming. So having that support system was important, but the assumptions on him then were also very challenging. He'd show up to, mommy and me class being the only dad. So just as we have men in this discussion, Bobby and Felipe and Dan behind the scenes, we really need to embrace that for progress for us all, it will take all voices truly welcoming. So I've seen some comments that, well, laws make everyone equal. Yes, there are laws, and then there's culture. And right now, our culture needs, I think all of us panelists, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but we need a massive culture, not even a shift. I mean, a landslide of our cultural expectations of motherhood, of fatherhood, of our own selves, right? So the one tactic that I'll focus on that I kind of had an aha moment a couple of weeks ago, I think, Judy, I was feeling your anger couple weeks ago, and I said, I have to kind of point myself internally and figure out what is it that I can do here. And I looked at people that I work with, colleagues and partners and that, and I said, just as we are diverse in a variety of ways, we have a diversity in the way that we accept work, our hustle culture or not, or the way we say no. So what I observed over the last year is that some people have very good boundaries. And that's not a negative. That's quite
Mhm.
positive. They're able to focus and drill in on exactly what they need to do and deflect other things. So that's a great thing. What I've noticed even more than that is that women, at least in my sphere, are more likely to be given the tasks that some men may defer, rightfully so. It's not their area of focus. So the women then have to have their own work twice as hard to be seen as half as good, plus get the no work from others. And I do feel, being very transparent, saying no is hard for me because of that hustle culture. So I think that when we look at work and home, women feel like we can never turn off.
Yes.
That's my experience.
Wow, so many emotional stories, and this is all good. Thank you for sharing that, Stephanie. Thank you all for so far showing your backgrounds and your stories. This is so enlightening and helping us all realize that we're all in this, not together, but we all have separate stories that are also important and need to be talked about. So, not Dan, I'm sorry. Hey, Dan, I know you're watching. Feel free, Dan, to come back too and anytime if you see anything we need to add to the story or add your insight, because you're important too behind the scenes. Felipe, I want to come back to you. You just heard all these women above you, these stories, and I know you have lots of stories in your work, in your personal, professional life. Where do we begin on this? Where do we start? I mean, it almost seems overwhelming, but we can start by starting to talk about things. Where would you start? What would you suggest?
Yeah, what Madison said is about having conversations and starting to just really reach out. I mean, that to me, and also what Stephanie said with the cultural reset was what I call it. We all have, from my personal experience, the past 5 years, we worked really hard to really make our culture a strong, inclusive, fun, growing, engaged culture that works for everyone. And not, when I say it works for everyone, not that it's one culture. There's so many different facets of the culture. And that reaching out part, when we went to lockdown, there were a number of us in our senior leadership that were reaching out to our employees. My CEO specifically called every single employee on video just to see, how are you? How's your family? How are you doing? How are you dealing with the things going on in the world outside of COVID? Whether it's the social injustice, immigration, with Asian hate, whether it's Black Lives Matters, whatever the person might have been, their personal story. He wanted to know if there's anything that he could do, whether lend an ear of support. Is there anything that their family felt like they needed? And it was such an inspiring thing because it made the other leadership kind of follow suit with their own teams and other people. But I think that when someone says they have a great culture, that's great, and we all want that. But you never achieve it, in my opinion. I think you're always evolving it and you're always changing, and you have to have those difficult conversations with people. The ones that, the more uncomfortable you feel, probably the better conversation is for them. Because I think we need to put ourselves in that situation and have this conversation with people if we're willing to really change and make an impact. If you're not a leader and don't want to make an impact and don't change, fine, then don't listen. But if you call yourself a leader, that comes with responsibility and expectations. I think that we have to take seriously. And I think through engagement, when I keep on saying engagement, I'll give you an example. We would do events in the evenings after hours for our employees. Did we get 100 people show up for every event? No. Sometimes it was only 5 or 10, sometimes 15. It didn't matter because for that group, it was relevant and it was helpful. And the conversations from an HR perspective almost gave me hives because we talked about it was like a happy hour one that we did, social injustice, and we got into it, and it was such an open, honest, deep, meaning conversation. Then we got into politics, the next event. The next one after that was about religion. And I'm just thinking, okay, this could go really bad really fast, but the value and the depth of the conversation were so amazing. I get to know these employees at a level that I never would have before. And I think that's what, as employers, some people are like, no, we shouldn't call each other a family. We're just a team, not a family. I just strongly disagree. We are a team within a family, because at the end of the day, we spend so much time together and we see each other so much. And now, being in a pandemic, we have windows into each other's homes that we never had before. And I think we have an opportunity to really help each other out. And I'll share something really quickly. A few years ago, we had a lot to do with mental wellness and physical wellness. It's a big part of our culture, and we have made that a huge staple in it. And it got to the point where we got up in front of our employees and we shared some of our own vulnerabilities. Mine was I have anxiety. I had a car accident 15 years ago. I have battled with anxiety since then. After that, a lot of people came up to us afterwards to relate that they had the same issue. During COVID, the amount of people that reached out that said, I think I'm dealing with anxiety, but I'm not sure because I don't know what I'm feeling. How did you get over it? And I'm like, I didn't get over it. I'm still dealing with it. But when it comes to all these other issues that people are having with just dealing with not only just your children, your parents, you're dealing with like just your family not being employed. And there's so much that people get stretched thin. I have employees that quit their jobs. This mother, she quit her job because she had to choose between taking care of a child because her husband couldn't support them enough to help out because his job was more important in his eyes, or her job. And the fact that she had to sit there and make that decision, I just thought was ridiculous. And as an employer, we should be finding ways to be flexible. Husbands should be more flexible and helpful. But if employers are not going to be flexible moving forward, you're going to see a big change. I mean, I read a stat that there's 50% of the women in the U.S. are working right now. It's never been that low since 1988. That is horrific.
It is.
And to me, I just think that employers have an obligation to figure out what they can do to be flexible, what they can do to help, and really make a huge pivotal change in the culture that they have. Because if it doesn't happen now, I don't see what else is going to cause you to make that change. I'll pause there. Sorry.
No, that was great. Thank you so much. Hearing from your perspective from the HR side is huge. It sounds like we just need to humanize everything. I don't care who you are. We're just humans here. Just treat us like that. And thank you for sharing that. This is so, I'm almost speechless. So thank you so much all for this. This is so important. I mean, you have to have, like you said, you have to have these conversations. This is where you start. You can't stay hidden. You can't stay invisible about this. Bobby, thank you again for sharing that. You did get a lot of feedback and support, so thank you for that. What are your thoughts and insights, Bobby? I know you're in Toronto, right? So you're still in lockdown there, correct?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so we're still in lockdown. The kids have been home for, I guess, 2 months, and they're going to be home for the rest of the school year, so end of June. So that's where things kind of flared up, and they're still flaring up, and so we're still dealing with it. So it's been hard because both my wife and I are working from home, and we're trying to go with the kids, and they're spending 60 hours a week on laptops. I'll share another quick thing, which was 2 nights ago. My wife and I just kind of basically had it and decided to let the kids do what they want, and we didn't even and just see how long they were staying on laptops before they say, "Hey, I'm hungry." But they ended up being on the laptops the entire evening from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then 9:30, and I said, "It's bedtime." They're like, "Oh, we're not doing it." I'm like, "Guys, come on." We gave them some food and get ready for bed. But it was wow, okay. We checked out a little bit, but it was one time. But now we're more engaged. I want to comment on 2 quick things because I don't want to take too much time. I'd like to hear more from the women. Number one, I think it's important for us to how do you solve these things? Number one, and this also works with allyship too, which is to listen. Step 1, listen. Step 2, listen. Step 3, listen. And all while doing that, hold space for people to listen. And I'm going to do that for my daughter. I'm going to do that for my wife. I'm going to do that for anyone here. That's the number one thing about being an ally. I did a whole LinkedIn story about that. I think that's one thing. The second thing is, I think a couple of you mentioned the idea that we all have different perspectives and different where we're coming from, right? So yeah, Madison's sharing the Black experience. I can share a BIPOC experience being a person of color, and other people sharing this experience of being women or a single mom or whatever it might be. The truth, the way I would say this, don't feel bad about your own personal. Just share what you know. Share your stories. And Judy shared her stories in the 70s with her dad. I thought that was really moving. It's a great story. And that's your personal experience. And just,
Yep.
that's it. It's yours to own, share your personal experience. At the same time, while you're doing it, certainly acknowledge the different aspects of privilege we have. But I think that we'll all learn from all your different stories. I mean, we're learning from Stephanie's story of having 3 young kids under 6. We're learning from Judy's stories and Madison's stories. So I think it's important and now you're learning from my story because I've shared a couple of bits of my story. And so, when it comes to, empowering women, listening to their unique stories, holding space for that. And, I always talk about empathy as a tool. Empathy is 3 things. It's asking these 3 questions. Number 1, can I, do I understand how you feel? Number 1. Number 2, can I understand how you feel that way? And then number 3, which is the most important one, which most people do and don't do. And men, if you want to be allies, number 3, can I support those feelings? And that is one of the most important things that we have to do if we're going to be allies to support women. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Bobby. That's a great framework. So I took notes. I just want to make sure that was important. Do I understand? Number 2 is how do I understand? And 3, can I support this? Is that what you said?
Yeah, well, I didn't phrase it properly, but basically, can I understand your feelings?
Okay.
Can I understand why you feel that way? And then can I support those feelings?
Okay. You also said the word listen 3 times. And, that's what we're doing here. We're doing this live on LinkedIn and it will live on in other places. We're having conversations, but you can have a conversation, but if you're not listening, you're not taking it in and the empathy is not there. So perhaps really, just getting these stories out. And that's why Dan and I set this up to have these conversations and understand it, because I know there are people here today who are you all are sharing your important stories. There are people watching this who are agreeing in the same place, and they're agreeing with us and supporting this. So it's almost so powerful. I can't even talk. Thank you so much. I'm really touched by all this. And it's not about me. It's about your stories and bringing this change to light. But we're here to support.
Sorry, can I add something?
Oh, sure, Bobby.
I just want to say, we've spent literally just less than an hour together, and I already feel so close to you guys in just 1 hour. That's what's so powerful about conversations like this. Yeah. Even the ones I've been having in Clubhouse, but this I love this kind of stuff. So I really do appreciate listening and hearing from you.
Thank you. Thank you. No, Clubhouse is great. So many wonderful conversations come up, but I think adding this visual too, to see our faces and our reactions. Okay.
Michelle, can I share I want to share something with Bobby and the group because I think it fully supports what Bobby said. And Bobby, I had it tucked away for a LinkedIn post, but it's a beautiful quote by Oprah, which is empathetic listening. Did you hear me? Did you see me? And did what I say matter to you?
Yes.
That could be the whole topic for today. The theme for today. So we're almost at an hour, and I feel like we've had such powerful conversations. Dan, behind the scenes, do you want us to continue, or are there some questions and ideas and thoughts that are springing up that we should talk about? Because it's almost like these things were so important. I don't want to discredit what the viewers are thinking or seeing or wanting.
I'm having a hard time because watching behind the scenes, the first time we did this, it was we were putting it on, and I think it was just kind of a roller coaster. This time getting to sit back, listen to everybody. It's really hitting home the impact that we're having. Yeah. And in saying that, I don't think we'd be doing the listeners fully do justice if we stopped now. So let's continue the conversation. I'll be back at about half an hour, so that's 5 minutes till the end, to announce, to kind of close everything out. But I just want to thank all of you and all of you that are listening. it's I'm moving back.
Dan, are there comments? And I agree, the conversation has been so.
Well, I want to mention something that I saw in the news that might, I don't want to like T-bone the conversation, but
No. We're at a crossroads and this is the perfect time. Go for it.
It starts to bring in the topic of, obviously everyone getting paid well means that everyone gets paid well. So there is no reason to think like this. How do I say this? For me, I was very shocked. And sometimes I think that's been part of the pandemic is experiencing news that is extremely shocking. I understand that's the role of some journalism, is to get people to see the news, and that maybe involves some shock and awe. But sometimes the news is just shocking because those are facts. And when I saw that airlines, and I know I'm bringing up a specific industry, they have asked employees to volunteer this summer. They're not forcing their they're using the word volunteer for 6-hour shifts this summer because they laid off so many people that they now cannot serve the amount of summer surge of travel that's about to happen. And they're asking volunteers for 6-hour shifts during their downtime to help customers get off planes, navigate airlines, and those are unpaid helper roles. So I don't know if you see where I'm going, Stephanie, Madison, Felipe, Bobby, like this idea that helper roles are volunteer for corporations who cannot now hire fast enough for a summer surge because maybe they're not paying enough. Maybe their systems are broken, that they are not, there's something broken when I see a news article saying we're asking employees during their downtime to volunteer. It just blows my mind. So I don't even know where to go with that other than that's, I mean, I'm getting an expression from Madison. Do you see where I lose my words? Like, how do we fix this? This is bigger. These are major corporations and major airlines that think it's appropriate that even crossed somebody's desk at a CEO level who's making 7 million, 50 million, I don't know, 13 million. I think it was 13 million that Delta Airlines CEO was making, but yet they have to ask their employees to volunteer. Bam, like I can't even.
I can't imagine this. I didn't see that. That would make me so angry. So they want these people to work for free.
Yes. Yeah, that was 2 days ago that another airline came out. So we saw one airline these are all big airlines. One airline comes out in May and announces a volunteer program. Like they're leaning and they're like we as humans want to help each other. And the idea that corporations are people and that helper roles in society, the care role, is free. So you can see where I'm coming from, like the female gap, just in general, like men are helpful too. Like nobody should be asked as an employee to help for free.
No.
Especially when you've got this huge gap. Okay, I'm going to stop talking.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that. That actually very much annoys me too. I'll be nice and say annoy. So
I know I need to stop reading the news, but I don't know. I feel like I'm in a place where I need to know this is happening, but I also don't know how to fix it.
I know.
The challenge is that there's so many different things going on. It's hard to know where to start. I mean, even talking about the culture shift of maternity leave for women in the United States is, in Canada we get a year off. Some people get, which is amazing to support women. In Europe, it's even 2 years. But in the U.S., like I've had friends go back to work after 6 weeks, and other ones beg for 12 weeks and being forced or feeling guilt tripped into going back to work after such a short period of time. I think that's really hard, and that again, that's one of many things. We talk about wages as well, and now you're talking about this volunteering people to do extra stuff. So. I think the first thing is to, we have to find a way to just pick one or two things to kind of focus on, because otherwise it's hard to do all of them at once. I think that's the challenge, right?
But I gotta say, Judy, I agree. I think you have every right to be angry. I'm angry hearing you just talk about that, because to me, you hear about the CEOs out there, that some of the good leaders that actually reduce their salaries to take care of their employees. That's true leadership. You know what? If you're not ready to be a leader and you want to keep that salary, go find another job, because you don't deserve the title of leader. And to have your employees already suffering, already struggling, and then have the audacity to ask them to volunteer back, you know what? That just, I'm with you on that. I wasn't angry until you said that, but that really just, I don't know. I find it.
Now we're all angry and fired up.
So I need to not be angry on this live stream. I'm going to stop using the word angry, but
You know what?
I don't know how to fix everything. I wish I could. Like I don't know how to fix it.
But that anger drives change. I think we just can't use the anger to make the change
Maybe
happen.
the next time I wear a shirt at the airport, it needs to say, like, I don't know what. Like, what is this movement that no employees should be volunteering right now? Like, that's insane to me.
But
The
those
shirt
voices,
do better. Like, do better. That's the shirt.
Do better. Yeah, I love that.
and as an HR person, when I hear the voices come up, and those angry voices that come to me with issues, and if they obviously have good emotional intelligence, they deliver it in a way that they're heard. That's what we need. We need to have people who are emotionally intelligent and angry to speak up, because those voices, some people are too introverted to speak up. Maybe they'll write a great letter and write it extremely well, but is that as powerful sometimes? Yes, maybe no, but there's something to channeling the anger properly, I think.
One of the positives that I did see come out of this in the news also, Judy, in the last week, is that LinkedIn has decided to compensate employee resource group leaders or global chairs, if you will. So when we talk about volunteering, that is a huge volunteer initiative, if you will, that has always been seen as extra beyond the day job. And I was really, I was surprised, quite frankly, and delighted to see that is now being recognized. Maybe it's not a salary, perhaps it's a bonus or whatever it is, but people leading ERGs or EBRGs are generally people from marginalized groups, right? So now we're adding yet another layer of the onion of extra and care and volunteerism. So that just to perhaps buttress the negative with the positive, there is certainly good news coming out of this. But I agree, Felipe, 100%. We need to be fired up enough to create change and communicate it well. But it's critical that we continue to speak up and speak out where needed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a leadership role, those people that speak out, those are your ambassadors. Those are the ones that are going to help you make that change. You need to help them get their ambassadors, and that really does make a huge difference, because you can't do it by yourself. You know?
Yeah. Don't apologize for anger. Anger, like you said, causes change, and that's why we're here. That's why we're starting this. So you're helping so many people by doing this. So don't apologize. So Madison, were you going to say something else about this? I didn't mean to. We kind of went off on.
I'm still letting the airline volunteerism thing sink in, to be quite frank. I'm still there. It's tough. It makes my stomach hurt for a few reasons. One, and I think Felipe said this, it's the arrogance for me. So the fact that was something that was even put out says to me a few things. One, there is such a high and mightiness about kind of that C-suite level of the organization. But then also, you wouldn't propose something like that if you weren't confident that there'd be some group of people that leans in. But this gets back to the hamster wheel that we're in, because I guarantee you there's a population of humans that are going to say, okay, well, if I put a couple shifts in, then that's going to fast track me to this next thing that's never going to come. Right. So my hope is that there is a massive, no, we're not doing this. So then the airline can pay people appropriately to sustain their business. But that only happens if everyone says in unison, we're not going to participate. But it's difficult to mobilize people in that way. So that's where my brain is right now, and it's tough.
Well, maybe this can become part of the today's news and views on LinkedIn. Just a slight pitch there. And because it is a news story. It is a very powerful news story that I've seen being featured in Entrepreneur. It's being featured in The Hill. It's being featured all these different news places and I will say a big shout out to how I get some updates in things is through watching these movements on TikTok. I feel like TikTok has been a place that people have been able to vent in a way that they actually get heard. And I feel like we can vent on LinkedIn sometimes, and maybe I'm being on the edge right now, but we also want to make sure we have business and we don't lose our jobs. And I even see people on TikTok lose their jobs from venting. Venting to me is, I need you to be aware that this is happening in society. That's all that it really, I listen to these stories that people are sharing online, and I'm finally hearing the real stories that happens in business and work. And what Felipe said is really powerful, and I'm grateful for good companies and good employees. And at one point, I worked for a Fortune 100 that if I even hinted that I was struggling, hinted in any way, in any shape or form, admitted that I couldn't complete a task, admitted that they were giving me too many projects but not paying me enough, I could lose my job. Like, it wasn't a question. It was a real situation. And as a single parent, I felt backed in a corner. I did not feel like, yes, they may have said, Judy, how are you doing? But I knew that wasn't a real question. That was a setup. And all I could say was, I'm doing fine. I'm doing amazing. The amount of work you've given me is amazing and perfect. And I can complete it all on my Saturdays and Sundays. Thank you very much. Like, do you see what I'm talking about, Felipe? Like, I was in a rock and a hard place because this Fortune 100 company was not interested in hearing that I was struggling. All they needed to know was they didn't need to replace me. That's it. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking again.
Yeah, I mean, there's the authentic, there's the check-in, there's the authentic check-in, and the one that you're just doing for show, right? And so, which employers are doing an authentic, real check-in that really takes into account and creates a space for people to actually share stuff versus having them fearful for their jobs and things like that.
Yeah, and I found that leaders that truly ask the question of how you're doing are the same ones that value your creativity and your opinions. So it's not come in and do it our way, ABC every day. I want to know what you think. What ideas do you have to bring to this, and what value do you have? Those are the people I found when they ask how you're doing tend to mean it because they value your opinion.
So starting to ask at the smallest micro level today, if we can pinpoint something that we could do to move this forward, to ask people how they're doing, their insights, and to listen with empathy. Is that what you guys would agree on? Would you add to it? What's the micro step we can take? Because all good can come little by little. If we
I always add one word, which is really.
Is what?
Really listen.
Really
listen. No.
Oh.
How are you doing, really?
Really? Oh, yeah, like Judy
said. It changes the conversation
Yeah.
tremendously.
Yeah, the honest, candid truth.
Inviting real truth.
Okay, real truth. Okay.
And I would just add probably honor other people's boundaries.
Yeah.
If people don't want to talk, if they don't want to, it's like this full stop. If somebody puts up a boundary that doesn't serve you, it's not about you. Yeah. It's about them and their boundaries. And their boundary may not be what you wanted it to be. You wished they could. It's just honor their boundaries. Honor every freaking person's boundaries, because you have no idea where their edge is, where they're at, what they faced that day, what they're going to face tomorrow, and how much they faced in the last 20 years.
One thing I'd offer too is don't be afraid to be an example. Anyone listening that has tap danced across my LinkedIn knows that I have no chill on LinkedIn, zero chill. I will talk about everything and that's okay. And I found a way to do it in a manner that doesn't have anyone on their heels for hours at a time. But I think in doing that and taking those steps, I have found allies in places that I never expected to find them, because there are people looking for all of us. And it just starts with trusting that we can share bits and pieces of the things that we are uniquely dealing with. And we'll find that while our experience is absolutely unique, it's not necessarily singular. And so we can absolutely start those conversations, independent of our workplaces and spaces, to help drive change.
So real quick, I just needed to jump in. So for those that are watching, I understand that there's an issue on laptops with the feed loading. Does seem to be working on phones. So as far as I can tell, it's not a matter of our system. It has something to do with LinkedIn. So I just want to apologize to everybody. We're going to keep on going, but as a reminder, I will have this on replay, and everybody's going to have access to it. So I apologize for the interruption. And yeah.
We're also going to make a company page or a page for this to house them all, because the valuable conversations can be heard again and again.
It was too hot for LinkedIn, and the airline shut it down.
Exactly.
They got triggered.
There you go.
I like that they're paying the ERG leaders, but LinkedIn also needs to do better. Which
that means they're listening to us.
They know.
Maybe my shirt just like everyone gets paid. Like we just all get paid. Okay.
We came in too hot. That's all it is.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 10 more minutes or so to close out this remarkable day, this moment, this series. Everything you shared today has been so important. Everything, no matter if you're, who you are, where you are, we all have stories, and they need to be told again and again. And we need to listen, really listen, as Bobby says. I want to bring back that idea. What's the micro step we can take moving forward to at least get us to next month? What, change is small, but change is good, even if it's, a micro change. What would you suggest, Stephanie, for your suggestion to make some little movement forward from today, at least?
I will lean on one, and the video is so good, like I'm losing my accessories here. So we're just gonna crazy blowing up video. What I would say is something that has served me very well in the past, which is choose fear. So really lean into those conversations. If you are an ally, ask, and as Bobby said, ask, how's it going really? How is it to be you? And I preface that by saying, don't come in blind, do your research, have a basic level of understanding, but then connect human to human. Mm-hmm. The other point that Madison touched on is it is scary to stand up and say, something's not right. This is not serving us. This is not serving, whether it's a team or an environment or a culture. It is difficult. And as Judy touched on, it can be impactful in your personal life, in your compensation, in your career. So choose wisely, but choose fear would be my micro step.
So I have learned that people can't hear us either on the phone.
Oh, no.
I do not know what the problem is. I am going to keep us going for one of the purposes is that I don't know how this is going to be affected on replay. So it may
work on the replay. It may work on the download. So yeah, I just saw that on my cell phone too.
Oh my goodness. It makes you wonder.
I'm telling y'all, we came in too hot, but I'm done. Let me mute myself.
Maybe we had just too many people that joined us and it's overloaded.
We crashed
it? We broke LinkedIn.
We broke internet.
Yeah, I mean, we had nearly 500 confirmed. People respond, which I mean, Judy probably does that in her sleep, but for the rest of us, that's a lot.
We mentioned too many hot buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling
Our
you.
work is done here today. They knew, they heard.
We exposed the gap of
Yeah.
how much CEOs get paid to how much employees are getting paid, and they want us to do it for free because
Yeah. That might have been it. That might have been the final
That was the
straw.
precise time that we stopped hearing what others.
I just don't know if it's a matter of StreamYard or if it's a matter of all LinkedIn, because I went out and checked to make sure there were no broadcasts that were conflicting, just in case, and there were not. So here, let me try one.
Well,
thing.
everyone say something right now that you wish was not recorded. I'm just kidding.
Actually, I do have something to share that, in case it is recording, as far as the micro changes that we might be able to do.
It's
I
going
just
to mean
want
something to us, Felipe. So,
well, so okay, so if there's only 5 of you or 6 of you with Dan, great. If the rest of you are hearing this, I just want to do a call out to all leaders out there again, because those micro changes, if you're in a leadership role, you have the ability. And I don't care what leadership role you are in. I don't care if you think that you're the low person on the totem pole at the table. You have the ability to make a change because you have a title of leader. Even department heads are leaders. Take that seriously. Take that responsibility and do something with it, because you have an opportunity to make a change. And if you do nothing, then where are you helping? How can you can't complain about it, because people look at leaders to make change, and it's got to start somewhere. So I have a challenge for all leaders out there to, if it's your issue or your team's issue, listen to them, really listen to them, like Bobby said, and start that change. It's got to start somewhere. Every change started at some point. If you're a leader, you have that ability more than others. Don't take it for granted and take that responsibility seriously. So I hope people hear that, but I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I could hear all of you. So regardless of what happens, I'm hoping, I'll be able to place this on replay and all will work. So shit.
I believe everyone's a leader. So, Felipe, thank you for that. I mean, I watch brand new employees that get hired, and I've seen their stories, and I'm grateful they're sharing their stories instead of being silenced.
Yes.
So, top to bottom, and any Netflix shows I watch that show a hero speaking up, it is about speaking up. So, I guess I say the word anger with a smile.
You did it well.
I'm going to be the angry cheerleader. Give me an A. Give me an N. Give me a G.
That's right.
Give me an R. ER. So I can't even spell anger. Okay, at least I made you laugh. That's my goal.
And you're right. Those new hires that show leadership qualities, those are ambassadors that you can bring in to help make people listen. Because sometimes those leaders, they got imposter syndrome sometimes, and they hear something from a young person coming in, a different point of view, and it does help change their mind. So again, going back to really listening, like Bobby said.
Yeah, and somebody might have 10 years experience, but they maybe did the same thing for 10 years.
Yeah.
And they never learned anything new. They haven't read a new book. They haven't challenged themselves. So years of experience do not always mean everything. So we're on the same page.
Totally. Well, Bobby, what I would love to hear your suggestion, idea, insight for a little micro change to take us from here today moving forward.
Well, I mean, I think, as someone who runs a Thought Leadership Brand Club, we all have things that we care about and are passionate about. And I always use the analogy that if I had $1 million, would I make a change by giving 1 million charities $1? Or would I make an impact by giving $100,000 to 10 charities? And so just like that with our own time, we have to think about what are the 2 or 3 things we can do to make that impact, that change. And right now I have to focus on my daughter. That's going to be a huge priority for me the next month. I'm also hugely aware of certain things going on in our social justice community. Canada's dealing with an Indigenous issues that are really coming up the pipeline, and I'm talking to my kids about it. So that's where I put my energies in terms of how I can support certain social causes. And so I think one of the things for us that'll help us is to realize that we can't do everything. So what are the 3 things you're going to do? What are you going to work on? Are you going to try, is Stephanie going to influence the the maternity leave market or issue in the United States? Is Matt's going to focus on causes that are important to her, or Judy important to her, like single moms, for example? But I think it's better for us to pick the 2 or 3 things where we can make the most impact and really focus our energies on there, and starting discussions, creating those spaces, and trying to find people to bring in some solutions. For me, one of the things I like to do, particularly with thought leadership branding, as well as the stuff I'm doing on across social media, is I try to create conversations like this, where there's a safe space where people talk about things that are really sensitive issues, because I think it's really important for voices to be heard. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Bobby. That's important. The realization that we can't do it all, but find the lane that we support and we can make the best impact. So important reminder too. We've all had so many wonderful ideas today because we listened, we held space. So I want to thank you all for today. We're at the end of our half hour. I know Dan's about to come on, and there he is.
Yeah, sorry. As you could tell, I'm a bit frustrated.
Well, let me start saying that Dan is awesome, and
Yay.
start with gratitude. He does a great job in supporting.
We love Dan.
I think
It sucks. I'm just kidding.
and I'm a big believer that it's important for us to find and get allies on board for every single thing. So when people say, what can people do for BIPOC issues? I'm like, you know what? We need people who are not BIPOC to be allies. What can we do for women, people who are men, to get on board? It's the same with every single issue, because you need to get a lot of allies to just vouch for the change and really start forward, because it's going to help. It's going to help us. We need that. So the more we can get men to be allies to women and non-BIPOC to be allies to BIPOC, I think that's an important lesson for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to apologize because I don't do well at hiding emotions. But what I was saying before was so important that it's one thing to put on a production, and I don't even want to call this a production because there's nothing produced about it. But it's another thing to sit back and listen to the things that you've helped build, take center stage and really evolve. And what I've noticed with this session is that the conversation has really taken off and evolved to get more and more in depth, more and more personal. Bobby, I want to say thank you. Your vulnerability, I think, was really important in setting. I think it set the tone for how the conversation went after that. And it wasn't something that you needed to do. I knew that you weren't as present yesterday, and I was going to text you anyway and see if you were okay. So I appreciate that vulnerability. I remember the last session talking about what my family went through, and I remember feeling those same emotions that you conveyed. So I know how difficult it is to be in that. I owe Judy a debt of gratitude, not because I got the infamous Judy Fox on, but because the words, the meaning, and the heart behind it are so impactful. And honestly, we never would have had Madison if it wasn't for Judy. So I want to personally thank you for that. And technically, we wouldn't have Stephanie without you either, because you trained her.
I am just here to hype up Madison, Stephanie, Michelle, Felipe, because me and Felipe met in person too. And Bobby's been amazing. We've all helped each other. Literally, we all have.
Thank you.
Seriously, Stephanie, Michelle, your we haven't barely. Okay, I will stop talking. You all.
Like the Brady
all
Bunch.
have helped each other at some moment. It is completely reciprocal.
Yes. Ditto. Yeah. Don't we feel like the Brady Bunch? If that.
So
that makes me Alice. I don't want to be Alice.
So really quick,
I'll be Greg or Bobby. I don't want to be Alice.
So
I'll be where I want to be.
in the event that this works on replay, let me just do this announcement. Next month, Michelle. So Michelle is going to be our consistent, and she's our moderator until she says to me, Dan, I'm tired of dealing with you. But next month is going to be a little bit different. There's going to be, I'm not really sure how it's going to play out. I'm trying to determine that. But what I know for sure is Michelle Oliver, Susie Choi, Ilya Francis, who's admin with Thought Leadership Branding. And I really wanted to bring in another CEO. So we have Stephanie Holt that's going to be joining next month. As somebody that has been a CFO in a large organization and really could talk to how it works from there. I have a thought that we may just do an all-female panel next month. If not, I am looking to see whether it's myself or somebody else. One thing that I've learned throughout this panel is that I think you have to, as an ally, we have to learn when it's appropriate to talk and when it's appropriate not to talk. For me, it was appropriate not to talk during this panel discussion so that others can convey their message and reach a new audience. So I'm still working on that. There's a lot of people that have reached out to me to want to be part of this for August and going forward. Okay. I don't plan on stopping this. Michelle and I made the decision to keep it going because we know that there's been too much silence for too long. Yep. So
thank you, Dan.
We can't. So thank you again. I'm having a hard time right now, so I'm gonna let Michelle close it out. And just thank you all.
Thank you, Dan.
Truly.
We appreciate you. Oh. Well, today's been special, and I sure hope people can hear the last parts of this. Your stories, your messages, everything you shared today have given so much to all of us here and all of us listening and moving forward, and those down the road who will watch this again and again, hopefully. I invite you all back again sometime. We'd love to hear you again. Thank you for bringing everything up you did today. Everything was so important, so eloquent, and so smart. I just want to say I'm so humbled and honored to be a part of this. You guys are the best. And thank you, Madison. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Felipe. And thank you, Bobby. You truly are special people. And if I've learned today, it's listen, really listen, and stand up for what's right. And I thank you for that. So thanks. That's all I can say. I'm I'm speechless, but today was important. So your stories matter. And everyone out there listening, thank you for listening today live and on the replay. Please take time for yourself. Realize you're special, and to find that person. We are here for you. Reach out to any of us. If you need anything, we are here. We support you, and we look forward to seeing you again next month as we continue this important conversation. So everyone, thank you again, and we'll see you next month. Take care.